Greetings and welcome to Nathan Nile Official. For those of you who have never seen my face in a video before, my name is Nathan Nile. This is my personal channel where I record vlogs, reviews, anything else that happens to catch my fancy. First of all, I'm dressed like this because it's midnight. I just got home from work. It's 40 degrees outside, and which means it's about 45 degrees in here, and I don't feel like turning on my air conditioner. I'm trying to save money wherever I can. Secondly, I'm reviewing 3 different movies here. You can probably tell by the title. The first one is Joker, starring Joaquin Phoenix, and the other 2 are actually YouTube movies on something alien something. I'll put a link in the description. They're full-length it's a fan film, but it's a feature-length film, and it's called Joker Rising and then Joker Rising 2, The Clown Prince, which I've never heard of either of these, but you know, I was thinking about whether or not to watch the Joaquin Phoenix movie, and I ended up somehow finding these, and I was like, okay, here's what I'll do. I'll watch this and those just for comparison. You know, because I was looking up just reviews of Joker, and I ended up stumbling onto those. And here's the thing. You know, Joaquin Phoenix, he's an amazing actor. I'd never doubt that he could pull off the role, but how well is the role going to be written? And so I've been 50-50 about whether or not to see this, because everyone's saying how amazing it is and how much they love it, and nothing ruins a good movie more than too much hype. It gets overhyped, you go in there with such expectations and it falls just short and it feels like the worst thing you've ever watched. But I finally broke down and figured I should at least see it just once. And honestly, I walked into the theater expecting to just be disappointed. I really 100% was ready to leave there wishing I hadn't wasted my time and money. And well, I'm gonna go ahead and give you just my overall opinion of this movie, of all 3 movies really. Honestly, I kind of felt inspired after watching them, and I'll give you more explanation about that as we get to the end of the review. But first, let's talk about little nitpicky things here and there, things that I loved and didn't love about all 3. First of all, Joker, once again, Joaquin Phoenix, amazing actor. You know, most of these people in the film, you know, they did a good job, didn't really doubt them. Like, there were no times when I like, ugh, like, you can't act. They really brought the characters to life. And, you know, as far as the storyline goes, I had a lot of issues with it. I mean, but once again, I went into here ready to just like critically analyze it, had a notepad, was taking notes. And there were a few things that like, oh, early on I took note of this, and I'm like, you know, you might be missing an opportunity to do this or that or whatever. And like, this doesn't make sense. But then like, oh, there were 3 different things that it did pay dividends in the end, and I like that like the setup, and then like, oh, here's why that was important. So here's why you should have been paying attention to that. You know, and here is a spoiler alert. So skip ahead a few seconds if you haven't seen it and you don't want things spoiled for you. But the one thing that I'm surprised that I haven't heard anyone mention yet is his mom and the role that she plays in the story. Because the one thing I was concerned about as I'm watching this is that, you know, the inaccurate portrayal of mental illness, and to me it felt for much of the movie more like, you know, a high school teenager's revenge fantasy brought to life. That like, oh, everyone's bullying me, so I'm gonna go shoot up the school kind of thing. Like, that's what it felt like to me. It didn't, and I had concerns about that, and like, but like, I think it made it easier for me to accept having when it was revealed that the mom was crazy, and that she kind of passed a little bit of that on to him, and that it's just, you know, he's got a genetic psychological disorder, and then, you know, everyone treating him like shit on top of that. But also, you know, keeping in mind that the movie appears to be told entirely from his perspective, which makes it, because there are times when I'm like, it feels a little too unbelievable that everyone treats you this shitty. I mean, and this is coming from someone who has had a hard life. You know, I I was beat up by my relatives. I got picked on at school, and there are times when legitimately it feels like the entire world's against me. And one thing I've learned in counseling is that, once you have this idea in your head that this is what the world is like, this is what people are like, then everything that happens to you, it confirms it. And everyone who's mean to you for any reason, whether they intend to or not, whether or not they know they did it, it's confirming what you already know to be true about the world. The facts that you already know to be true about life. I've had so many people who were shitty to me growing up, and I just kind of developed this mentality that the whole world is shit. So now anytime anyone does anything that I consider mean or disrespectful or anything of that sort, one of the first thoughts in my head is like, oh, this guy's a fucking asshole. When really they just, they weren't necessarily aware that they were doing something like that to me. But I don't really get that feeling from this movie. Once again, I think the only thing that does save that is the fact that it's being told from his perspective. So it does seem to be like, oh, everyone in the world is unnecessarily mean for no fucking reason because they're just assholes and it's just a shitty world. So the only reason why that works is because it is told from his perspective, and that revealed that he has been born with already a mental disorder, which they never specifically state, which I do kind of like, because when you put a specific label on it, unfortunately, you have too many people who will go and just like line by line try to dissect it as if they are professionals when they're not. And so I like the fact that they didn't directly say he has this or that. I mean, they did say, like, with the laughing thing on the cart, but like, you know what? If I was editing this, I'd probably cut that out, but like, they didn't harp on it. Because I've seen a lot of movies and TV shows where it's like, oh, literally every scene. By the way, I have OCD. My OCD. God, my OCD. And I like that they didn't like harp on it and hammer it in. It was just something that kind of existed. And the thing I liked most about it is that it was like this slow descent into madness. It's not like, oh, he was a perfectly normal human being that just snapped. It's like, he's always kind of had this thing within him, and then like the pain and suffering just piled on over a whole lifetime. Eventually he reaches the breaking point. And so I appreciate that, and honestly the best thing I can say about it is that I really got caught up in the movie. And if I hadn't been there specifically to find things to criticize, I probably would have enjoyed it. Because I really did get swept up in it. It took a while to get there, but by the time the action started getting real, got towards the end, it reached the point where I kind of forgot that I was watching a movie. And once again, while I have many issues with it, overall, I think it was worth looking at, and I can understand why many people enjoy it. And by the same token, Joker Rising, Joker feels more like a psychological thriller that's just about a comic book hero, villain. And by the same token, Joker Rising, honestly, feels just about the same, except it feels like a gangster movie that just happens to be about this guy. And with the first one, I mean, everything about it is so drastically different from what I know the Joker to be that it was so hard to accept at first. But it's a very well-told story, and while some of the people in it are better actors than others, it was a fun movie that I ended up enjoying watching. And once again, more than halfway through, I eventually reached that point where I forgot that I'm here to criticize this and kind of just got sucked into it. And now there are times when you can tell, yes, this is definitely amateur filmmaking. However, that being said, I'm so glad that I watched it. I'm incredibly glad it was made. And overall, I ended up loving the movie. And then Rising 2, there was times in the beginning where it was a little jumpy and it's hard to follow. Okay, wait, where are you going in this story? And the end, I'm still kind of like not sure if I liked the ending, but overall, this was a fun movie. That like the other one, like an hour into it, it was more than an hour into it that before I forgot that I was supposed to be taking notes. But this one, like 10 minutes in, I'm already hooked. It doesn't take as much build up. It is a sequel. You already know the story and the characters, and I had trouble moving past the fact that they took so much creative license with all of these characters that I know and love. But overall, like I said at the beginning, all three of these movies left me feeling kind of inspired, because while none of them are perfect, all of them are worth watching, and every single one of them, like, I could feel the passion behind it. Like, I could feel the passion that went into this. I can tell that the filmmakers, went out of their way to make something that they cared about. I can literally feel the blood, sweat, and tears that they poured into it, and I really appreciate that. So, like, if there's anyone that's on the cusp of watching Joaquin Phoenix in Joker, I don't think it's the best comic book movie ever made. I hardly consider it a comic book movie. Like I said, it's more like a psychological drama / thriller that just happens to be about a comic book character. And I don't know if it's even the best movie I've seen this year, but it's worth watching. It's worth checking out. And honestly, I think the biggest issue I had with it is that I'm just so busy comparing him to my own life. My fear is that there will be people who misinterpret the meaning behind it, thinking that, oh, like, he snapped because everyone kept treating him like shit and he decided to kill people. But that's not like the standard. I mean, there's a lot of reality to it. There are kids who get bullied and then go shoot up their school. There's even more kids who get bullied and just kill themselves. Just like how I tried to kill myself in high school. It's different for everyone. It's one of those things where I think I've said this. It's kind of like with Venom. Not the live action one because they went a different route, but the comic book Venom. It's the hatred that Eddie Brock felt for both Spider-Man and Peter Parker, the hatred that the symbiote also felt for Spider-Man and Peter Parker. The two of them when they combined together, that hatred created Venom. It's the same thing with someone having a mental break. We're all born with a propensity towards, certain things, but then the life we live can lead us in one direction or another. We can all be born, capable of developing certain mental disorders. Like, we always have it, but the life we live and the people we encounter and the way we're treated can end up shaping it so that, some people, like, oh yeah, you can tell right away there's something wrong with them, and others, like, they're what, I'm not supposed to say normal anymore because it implies something wrong with you, but like, that's the feeling, Two people can have the same diagnosis, but one of them you'd never be able to tell because they're able to just fake it a hell of a lot better than this other guy. And so, I don't know if you understood the point I'm trying to make. Long story short, Joker, imperfect, but still good, worth checking out. There are so many things that they got right, and if they made a follow-up or anything else of the sort, honestly, I will say it's one of the best live-action DC movies that's ever been seen, that I've ever seen. I mean, that being said, there's not much to choose from. So it's basically like, is it better than The Dark Knight? Because obviously it's better than Suicide Squad, better than Batman vs. Superman. I still haven't walked up the courage to see Aquaman or Justice League. I have yet to hear anyone say one good thing about either of those. But yeah, Joker, it's a great movie, one of the best that DC has ever put out. It's definitely worth watching. And then Joker Rising and Joker Rising 2, The Clown Prince. It's worth watching for the mere fact that it is free. I can't guarantee that you like it. It's a different flavor. I enjoyed it. I think it's worth watching. So if you haven't seen either of those, I'll put links down in the description. So feel free to check it out when you got free time. Also, if you haven't already looked down in the description, something else I'll link you to, my autobiography, Everything is Impossible, detailing the first 27 years of my life. It's the hard copy available on printshopcentral.com, ebook available on Amazon, and I've also got a merchandise store which I will link down below. I'm putting out a comic book called Toxic. If everything goes as it's supposed to, book 1 will come out sometime around Thanksgiving, book 2 sometime around Christmas. And hopefully book 3 sometime before Valentine's. Can't guarantee that yet. So, yeah. Thank you for watching. Go buy some stuff from me. I could use the money. And until the next time you see my face in a video, my name is Nathan Lau. Have a great day.